Yeah. So this is Lenore. She's 5. And she's going to get this super adorable red panda ball. So before I get too far into some facts about our little rusty colored friends, I want you guys to remember just one thing today. This is the original panda. Okay, so if you don't remember anything else, this is the original panda. Red pandas were discovered 50 years before giant pandas. They are in a family all by themselves. Giant pandas are in the bear family. They do share some similar adaptations, and most of that is just, again, they eat the same food, they eat bamboo. They both have pseudo thumbs to help them grip the bamboo. Beyond that, very different. So the OG of pandas, this is it. So like I said, this is Lenore. Lenore was born here. She is 5 years old. I'm going to give Alexis some apples to put in her little treat ball there.
Where's Audra?
Audra is probably sacked out inside enjoying the air conditioning. So red pandas, where they live naturally, so this particular type of red panda would be found in western China, and it does get warm in some of their native habitats, but when that happens, they will migrate vertically. So they just keep going to higher altitudes because they need it a little bit cool. You can see this beautiful rusty colored coat, very, very dense. One of the most dense of that mammals have. So these guys prefer colder weather. So if you really want a special treat and you don't mind going out in the snow, come to the zoo on a nice snowy day. These guys are having a ball. And frankly, they get very few of those snow days anymore. So when it happens, it's a great day to come to the zoo, just to see these guys. So everything about them is built for an arboreal lifestyle. These guys like to stay high up in the trees. They rarely come down to the ground. That would be when they're most vulnerable. So when you take a look at them, this rusty colored coat, that matches the moss that grows on the trees in their native habitat. Their dark underside, if you're a predator looking up, you might not see them because they'll blend in so well. They have really, really, really sharp claws. I cannot emphasize that enough. You can kind of see them there. They are not retractable. So they are out all the time. We like to say they are weaponized from birth. So, and they use those to get up and down the tree. Like I said, they have a pseudo thumb, so that's a modified wrist bone. So it's essentially like this, and they can grasp to pull the bamboo towards them to eat. I made that hole big enough so she could practically crawl into it if she wanted, but I'm going to retrieve that because it's going to land in the hot wire, and that will be an unpleasant surprise. That will be unpleasant. What you got all the apples, I think.
What do you like?
Yeah. That long tail. They'll use that for balance. It is not prehensile, meaning they cannot use it to hang on. So they can use it as a scarf as well, generally 1.5 times the length of their body. So when they're up in the trees where it's chill, that's where they like to be, they can wrap that tail around them, helps them to stay nice and warm. They are furry everywhere, even on the soles of their feet are furry. So, you know, in the past we've done red panda paintings, you know, footprints. Again, you get a cheetah or a tiger, it's a very nice, pretty paw print. These just look like blotches because, again, they have furry feet. They even have a little peach fuzz on their nose. So they are furry all over. They have modified bones in their ankles, so in their back legs. So they're one of the few mammals that can come down a tree head first. It's very unusual. Only a couple cat species can do that, and we know one of those is not the domestic cat. So they would have to come down, they have to kind of butt scoot down. These guys, because they can grip, because again, so if you see them coming down the tree, take a close look at their back feet. It almost looks like they're put on backwards because they can rotate them around to grip, then come straight down. So like I said, everything modified for that arboreal lifestyle. Red pandas today are critically endangered. There's fewer than about 2,500 of them left in the wild. Habitat destruction is the big issue that they face. So basically in areas where they live, people are cutting down the forest. for fuel, for farming, for any number of reasons. So the group we support is Red Panda Network. We've got some special signage out. But the coolest stuff that Red Panda Network does is, yes, they monitor the animals' populations. They do some research on the animals. The biggest thing Red Panda Network does, though, is they work with the local communities. That's the big deal, folks, is that people will save what they understand, and the people who are truly going to save these animals are the people who share their homes with them. So Red Panda Networks works with the people to educate them on sustainable farming practices. They teach them to replant the forests. Did anybody see if Audra came out?
No.
I heard a shift door going. They vaccinate the dogs. That's a big issue for them, are stray roaming dogs that carry disease. These guys are extremely susceptible to things like distemper, so that can be quite deadly for them, especially again because they're losing that forest habitat. They're having to come down and spend more time on the ground than that would be ideal. So they're coming into more and more contact with these kinds of animals, and that puts them at risk. So they even vaccinate the animals. They teach them, they've provided cooking stoves for them. They're very efficient, so they don't have to cut the forests. They train them to be forest guardians, so they go out into the forest and they'll look for traps and snares and poachers, and they'll report them. They earn a living by doing that, and again, because these are very poor communities, so it's a big deal to earn your living helping this animal right here. This is an umbrella species as well, so when you save a red panda, you're saving all the animals that would fall underneath that. So Red Panda Network has actually, they bought up a lot of the private land in these areas so they can preserve it as red panda habitat, and they're creating corridors for these animals to move through so they don't have to come down to the ground. Illegal trapping and poaching is a problem for them. It's becoming more of a problem, again, with world economies being what they are. So while it's not as big of an issue as the loss of their habitat, it is still something that happens to them. So again, Red Panda Network trains people. These are not pets. These are wild animals. They're very gentle. They're very mild-mannered animals, but they are not pets. They need a very specialized diet of mainly bamboo. That's what they get here at the zoo. You can see they have fresh bamboo. They also get a nutritionally complete biscuit, but not to bring anybody down, but a lot of these animals that are trapped and sold into the pet trade die long before they get to their destination because they've simply starved to death. There was a recent case where several red pandas were intercepted in Thailand on their way to be sold as pets. And again, those animals were caught in time to be saved, but there have been animals that have been taken in that could not be saved because they'd already become too emaciated and sick from the journey. So I'm happy to answer any questions. This is Lenore's sister Audra, also 5 years old. They were litter mates. It's kind of unusual to have two females living together, but these two girls were born in 2019, so they were due to be shipped out in 2020, but we had that little pandemic, and no pandas went anywhere. So these girls have lived together all their life. They do scrap a little from time to time, as sisters will. It's hard to be roomies with your sister all the time. But they're beautiful couple of girls. They're happy together. They're wonderful ambassadors for their species. So we work with a group called an SSP, which is Species Survival Plan, and they manage all the animals in the human care population. It's about 270 animals, give or take. And so they tell us who's going to breed with who and who's going where. So in the last master planning session, these girls are very genetically low on the list, so they're not going to be bred. But because they are so happy together and they're such wonderful ambassadors for their species, the SSP was like, continue to hold them. That's great. And we are going to, so on the other side, I'm going to give Zuko some treats here in a bit. But he's our little boy over there, and we are bringing in another female to breed with him so that hopefully we can have babies again, which we're all excited about. Yes, yes, love those babies. So with red pandas, their reproduction, their gestation is about the same as a cat. It's about 60 days, but they are pregnant for about 4 months because they are delayed implanters. So they breed January, February, March, somewhere in there. When all the stars align, they will breed. And then that embryo will float around in their uterus until a suitable time when it will implant. And then once implantation happens, it's about 60 days, so about the same as a kitten. And they are born much like kittens. So ears and eyes closed, completely dependent on mom. They'll stay in the den with her for up to 4 months, and then mom will start taking them out and introducing them to the world. So here at the zoo, they would usually be born in generally like late May, early June, but they're not coming out here to greet everybody until usually late September, October. So it is a bit of time. So if anybody's got questions, shout them out. I'm happy to answer anything or try to. I don't have all the answers.
Time, like the year that they like say they breed and then it floats in there. Is that because it's like time of year that they
Yeah, so again, they are seasonal, so and it's once a year. So January, February, March is breeding season. So we begin to see all the behaviors. The boys and the girls will start chittering at each other. They're spending more time together. 9 times out of 10, you never see them breed. You just like, okay, I'm just going to assume they did. Interestingly enough, the last pregnancy we had, again, I had never seen breeding at that point in my career, and I had a tour that day. So I walk out there with a mother and her 2 junior high boys, and the pandas are breeding. And you know, again, she was mortified. I'm like, oh my God, this is the great! I've never seen this. It's amazing. It's amazing. And her boys are just like, oh my God. And mom is just like, oh God, I'm gonna have a conversation when I get home. But normally you'll never see them. But we are blessed here in Cincinnati with our crew facility. That's our Center for Reproduction of Endangered Wildlife. We have Dr. Erin Curry over there. She is like one of the authorities on red panda reproduction. So all of our females are trained to get ultrasounds. So they stay in a little T-perch, and again, they're just able to ultrasound them while they eat apples. So what we're able to do, and we also send fecals. So what that helps us do is that, you know, once we think they're at a point in their pregnancy where, again, they think they can see things, we start doing the ultrasounds. And then with the fecals, they'll run them daily. Once that progesterone spikes, that's when we know implantation has occurred, and we can kind of base a due date off of that.
Are their coats waterproof?
Yes, yes. So she just asked if their coats are waterproof. So these girls, they'll sit out here in the snow and in the rain, and you can bring them in, and they'll have like 1 inch of snow over their coat. You brush it off, and if you put your hand down in between the skin, they are warm and dry. So they are very well suited for the elements, with the exception of heat. They don't like it. They don't like it.
Same girl, same.
Yeah. They don't like it.
Does Audra weigh a little bit more?
Huh?
Does Audra weigh a little bit more?
She does. She does. She's bigger. Audra's also very dark. You can see how dark she is. She's much lighter. Again, if you look at their faces, she's got a very square face. She's all about squares, her body type. She's all about triangles. So that's kind of one of the ways when we look at animals. I know it sounds kind of weird, but if you looked at them head on, you'd be like, I see it. So, Lenore here is our ballerina. Audra's our football player. So that's kind of how we see it. You're almost out.
Now, when you mentioned that they were like genetically low on the, what did you mean by that?
Okay, so with the SSP, what they do is they look at the genetics of the population as a whole. So when they're matching up animals for breeding, they're trying to get the greatest diversity in bloodlines possible. So these girls, their bloodlines are very well represented in the population. So they're prioritized, the animals are prioritized by how represented their bloodlines are. So when there's a lot of them, they're low on the list. When there's not many of them, they're high.
Okay.
So their mother was actually very high on that list, but their father was very well represented. So, because then Lynn's next 2 babies, Lucas and Mimi, their father was Kenji, who at one time was the 5th most genetically valuable male in the population. That changes. That waxes and wanes with births and all of that. But during that time, he was very highly rated. So Lucas and Mimi are still very high up on that list. both of them have breeding wrecks. These girls, again, I think just to throw us a bone, the SSP was willing to let us breed Lenore, but she had some issues holding her weight for a period of time when we put her with Zuko. So we did not feel comfortable breeding her, because what we don't need is for her, you know, she's at a great weight now, everything's good. We don't need her to lose weight if she's trying to carry, you know, a youngster. So we decided we did not want to breed. Our vet said, yeah, we would prefer you didn't. The SSP was like, you know what, good, you know. She does not need to breed. Zuko is fairly valuable. So we are going to bring in a female from Memphis. That's the plan. It's not written in stone, but the plan is for us to bring a female in from Memphis to breed with Zuko, because again, that would be a much more valuable genetic pairing. So if that kind of makes sense. Yeah.
It does. Thank you.
Everybody wants babies, but you
Yes.
can't have.
Yeah, you know, and again, everybody wants babies. We can only breed, sadly, space is always the limiting factor.
How many can you have here? Is there a
So we could hold 2 pairs and their cubs. But again, there's a lot of zoos that want to breed. These guys are very good at breeding in human care, but space is the limiting factor. So if we have 1 pair that has cubs and 2 is normal, so they'll usually have 2, we have to have a home for them. We have to be able to send those because they can't stay here, you know? And that's the limiting factor, is that everybody can only hold so much.
Is there
So as
talks about building this bigger, or is that
not
everybody
here.
wants-
There are other zoos that are coming online, zoos that got out of pandas for a bit but want to do pandas again. So that's something that always, and animals do pass. So we lost our breeding female, Lynn, just last spring. She was an older and she'd been retired from breeding. So you do have that, you
What
know.
is their lifespan?
It's about 12 years. Now, we've had animals, I mean, again, you know, I know we talked with some folks earlier about Queen Luna, who was out of Cape May County Zoo. She was 21, which is unbelievable. I mean,
Rest in peace.
she looked every bit of 21. So they can live longer. I mean, we've had them live up into their teens here.
In the
But
wild, is it more like 8 to 10?
yeah, it would be less, because again, you know, the harsh pressures of life in the wild. But yeah, they're very personable animals. I mean, they have very distinct personalities. Again, you can see how different they look. But, you know, Audra's a little bit more like, you know, I don't know if I have time for you people today. Whereas Lenore is like, if you have this cup and it's got apples in it, I'll do anything you want for however long you want.
So in the wild, are they pretty much?
They're pretty
stay away
gentle, so they'll just stay away from you. I mean, they just sit up in the
from-
trees and they
I
don't
know,
want to be bothered.
You know, the big giant pandas, you know, they're
Yes.
very, like,
Yes.
they
Yes.
stay
Yes.
away. I didn't know if they were like that.
Yeah,
or-
these guys are pretty elusive. I know Red Panda Network offers, you know, ecotourism trips, and you almost need to go on one of those if you ever hope to see a wild panda, because they know where they're at.
Yeah.
They get up in the trees. The females are in dens, you know, in the trees. They're elusive.
Yeah.
So there's really no firm count
Yeah.
on how many red pandas are really left, how many are out there. Where Red Panda Network is working, numbers are increasing from the animals that they're monitoring. So it's really great news for
So can they,
pandas.
like, when they get them, do they like tag them or anything in the wild, or they?
Generally, they don't. I think they have a few that they do, but they know where they're at.
Yeah.
Because again, those local people are out there walking those forests looking for the poachers' snares, and so they're kind of keeping an eye on who's where. But yeah, they take you out and they know where to go look for the pandas to make sure you see pandas.
It's not.
No, it
it's
is
not.
It is not.
Last time I looked into it, it was going to be about $8,000 for one person,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's I can't remember if I included the airfare or not, because their trips don't include airfare.
Yeah.
You have to get yourself there, and then it's
They offer trips for zoo professionals, and we all keep saying sometime we're going to get the zoo to pay for that.
Yeah.
We're going to get the zoo to send us, you know.
It's my dream to do that.
Retirement.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, I'm going to go gather up Zuko's apples, and I'm going to head over there because he's like, wait a minute, I'm not getting anything.
So they can't. There's a wall.
These are separate.
I
So
was
yeah,
pretty
and
sure
they
they
each
were.
have individual interior holdings. So we don't mix them. So yeah. All right, girls. You guys are all set. But yeah, this is probably about as active as they're gonna get today.
Yeah.
So, because come about noontime, they're gonna be like, oh, I'm done.
It's
supposed to be up to 90, so-
Exactly.
Really. Nobody likes
Exactly.
90s in September.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I'm gonna head over to Zuko's side.
We'll go this way.